So together with all of our second grade students, we are preparing for Holy Communion. When Jesus rose from the dead, he shows us that he has not ascended into heaven and gone from us here on earth, but rather he is still with us. But it is in a different way than before. Before, they could go to his house or ask, "Where are you staying, Lord?" And then he would say, "Come and see," and they could spend time with him. But now, he is with us in a way that we don't have to go to Jerusalem to see him. He is with us wherever there is the Holy Eucharist. And that is all over the world. In every Catholic church, there is a tabernacle where Jesus is present in the Eucharist. The apostles, even though Jesus explained all of these things about Scripture that referred to him, didn't recognize him until the breaking of the bread. That's the description in the early church for the Eucharist. He took the bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. Those are the words from the Last Supper, and the same words that we say at the Mass. And so for the Catholics, for those of us in the Catholic Church, the Eucharist is not just a symbol. It's not bread that we receive that represents Jesus. It is Jesus. He changes it into his body and blood, soul and divinity, so that he can be with us. Notice it says once they recognized him, he vanished from their sight. It doesn't say that he vanished from their presence. He was still there. They just couldn't see him anymore, except with faith in the Eucharist. So in this gospel, Jesus shows us how we can continue to speak with him and converse with him even now as he has risen from the dead. As you came to that Mass this morning, were you expecting that Jesus would be here and speak to you and you could talk to him? But that's exactly what's going to happen. As the Lord will become present, he will speak about the Scriptures and then make himself present in the Eucharist. If we were going to have a heart-to-heart conversation with someone, we could reflect a little bit on what would be the steps involved in having that kind of conversation. Well, first of all, we would say, I have to think about what is in my heart. What is it that I would wish to talk about that's been going on in my own heart today? And then we would share it with the other person. We would tell them about it, and then listen to them as they speak to us. And then finally we notice, how are things different now that I've had this conversation? Well, that's exactly what we can do with the Lord in prayer. Jesus appears to them and begins to walk along. They don't recognize him, but they're talking about everything that has gone on in Jerusalem. And they say, "Don't you know what has happened?" And he says, "What sort of things?" In other words, he does know what happened, but he wants them to share it with him. And they say, "Well, we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel." They're filled with sadness now. They're dejected. They've lost hope. They're returning home. They're leaving Jerusalem. And then Jesus begins to speak to them. "Oh, how foolish you are, how slow of heart to believe. This isn't a tragedy. Everything has happened according to God's plan. It was all spelled out already in the Scriptures, so that he would rise from the dead and enter into his glory." And as they are speaking, their hearts are burning within them. In other words, it's a return of faith, a newfound hope, a greater love. And so they return to Jerusalem because of that, to be with the community. So let's take a few moments now and invite Jesus to be with us as we first notice what is happening in our own hearts. What are the thoughts that I've been having this morning or maybe this week? How do I feel right now? Maybe there's anger, maybe there's sadness, maybe there is joy, maybe contentment, maybe worry. Just take a few moments to notice, what is in my heart? What have I been thinking about this morning? And then we can tell Jesus in prayer what we have noticed is in our heart. So maybe it's helpful to imagine Jesus standing before you, but he is here, and we tell him what has been in our heart, to honestly and completely talk to him about what we've been feeling and what our thoughts are. And as we speak to Jesus, we notice, how is he looking at us? What's his response to us? What does he seem to be saying? And so we allow the Lord to speak to us in our hearts. And we notice how our hearts have changed because of this time with Jesus and the desire that we have in our hearts.